Hello and welcome to Election Coverage 2025, live from Town Hall here in the town of Dartmouth, along with Mike Watson. I am Paul Santos. Welcome in. Once again, we'll be providing you with coverage of our town election as we do every single year. This year, a very interesting situation. We have a lot of races that are already decided because people are running unopposed. But there is one race that we're going to be talking about tonight, the one that there is opposition. That is the race for Board of Health between Susan Wheel Murray and Chester M. Tam. So that's the one we'll be focusing in on tonight. So let's say hello to Mr. Mike Watson. Great to see you again.
Good to see you again, Paul.
Another year has gone by.
Another year has gone by.
Mike and I have a running joke because we're good friends. We run into each other on occasion, but most of the time it's just this one night that we hang out.
It's kind of our once-a-year event. So,
but it is a lot of fun.
It does. It's a lot of fun.
So what have you been doing the last year?
Well, doing what I do. I mean, I've been busy at work and with the kids and stuff. So
Right.
it's been a pretty eventful year. We've done our thing, but always look forward to coming back and doing this
Yeah,
with
me
you.
too, me too.
And kind of contributing in a way that we can to kind of inform voters. So it's a great experience.
You're still a superintendent over at Greater New Bedford Voc Tech.
I am. I'm in my 4th year as the superintendent at New Bedford Voc Tech. My 18th year now there overall. So. Yeah, enjoying it, loving every minute of it.
And by the way, you mentioned kids, but you know, we have grandchildren now. You haven't got grandchildren
I do
yet,
not
right?
have
All right.
grandchildren,
I'm
no.
a little older than you.
Well, I'm not going to say that, Paul.
But no, the kids are fun, but the grandchildren are even more fun.
Well, yeah, I'm sure.
You've heard that before.
I have.
The people that told you that, they were right. They were right. But anyway, no, the kids, the grandkids, it's all great.
It's
and we're
all
very
good
happy
stuff.
to be with you tonight. Well, you know, looking through these different races, I think the first thing that stuck out at me when I went to vote today and on the days leading up to election is, you know, you don't have no contested races. You know what I mean? Now, again, you know, you might say, well, you look down the list here, Sean McDonald, Heidi Silver Brooks here tonight, you know, John Noons and people like that. You know, they look at that and they may say, well, gee, they're doing such a great job. I'm not going to run against Sean McDonald. I'm not going to run against John Noons, you know. Been there for a long time, done a great job. On the other hand, you do like to see some challenges here and there, don't you?
Yeah, so I'm on the other side of that one and have been for a long time. I think that it's really important that folks step up and have the opportunity to serve their fellow residents. I think competitive races make us all a little bit better. It's been an ongoing issue. Some years we see quite a few of them, but most years in the last 2 decades, there's quite a few uncontested races. So that's why I make a point every time when we meet some folks here, win, lose, or draw, just to kind of thank them for putting their name out there, because I think it's really important to the democratic process that we have options and that people get to know who are representing their interests.
The other thing, we had a number of ballot questions, and most of them, I think, were pretty automatic. Some of them, I think the first one had to do with correcting some language issues, and then another one had to do with reducing the amount of people on a board so that you could get a quorum more easily and things like that. So I really didn't see anything too controversial on there. Did you have a different view of that?
No, I didn't. I think, you know, and I wasn't surprised either. Some of the things that actually made it out of town meeting that were on the ballot today tended to be a little bit non-controversial. We'll see what voters thought when the results came in. Certainly, I look forward to kind of being able to talk with our select board members when they hear about the charter review process. Certainly, that's something very important to me as we think about what the future of town government should look like. And so we'll have that conversation tonight, I hope.
Well, let's focus on the only race that isn't contested tonight, and the contested race is for the Board of Health. Susan Wheel Murray, she's down on Elm Street. She's being challenged by Chester M. Tam of Carroll Street. Board of Health, tell me a little bit about that. What exactly do the people who serve on that board do?
Yeah, so the Board of Health is the public policy setting board in the health department for the town, and as folks know, many of our town departments have their own elected and or appointed boards, and so this is one of our elected boards. They are, you know, responsible for appointing the health director, and that's basically their functions, to execute health policy for residents on behalf of the town of Dartmouth.
Well, one of the candidates that is on the ballot tonight, Chester Tam, is actually here. Maybe we could have Chester get into the hot seat over here on our election night coverage. Mr. Tam decided to run for the open seat in the April 1st election, and he came up with the slogan, "Help People Again." After working at Mass General Hospital, he was a systems analyst for 5 years, later as a system engineer for 4 years in the radiology department up at Mass General Brigham, and he was trained in the biohazard waste management, sanitation, and how to make sure everything is kept safe while in a work environment. So, Mr. Tam, welcome to our election night coverage.
Thank you for having me, Mike.
I imagine the background that I just read is one of the reasons why you decided to run for the Board of Health, given your background.
Well, so I mean, originally, given just being new to all this, I've never run for anything before. I was actually interested in joining the town meeting, which is what led me to the town hall to pull papers for town meeting. And while I was there, I kind of just asked whether if there was something nothing that was being opposed or someone didn't pull papers for. And the town clerk just flipped through and said Board of Health. And, initially I was just like, Board of Health. I do have like a kind of a health background, and then I kind of went home and just thought about it for the night and said, if there's no one going to do it, I'm going to step up and do it. Like you said, it's good to see people step up and kind of run and participate, and I want to kind of learn more about our town and community, so that was something that was interesting to me. And so, like I said, the next day I did go in and pull papers and ran for the Board of Health. So I mean, I came from a family of restaurants, so I put 14 years into the restaurant. Also have an athletic training degree as well, so a health aspect of having to, take care of the human body. There's things of that nature. I figured, if there's no one going to do it, someone should step up, and I took that as initiative.
Yeah, so I'll say what I said earlier on. I'm always very deeply appreciative of folks who have been willing to step up. It's not easy to take out the nomination papers, get your neighbors and friends to sign, and to kind of put your name out there for other folks to make a determination about whether or not you are elected to the position. So that's a big first step, a step most people don't take, and so you deserve to be commended for being able to go through that process. And I think the health of our democracy here in Dartmouth relies on that folks do exactly what you did.
Definitely, I believe so too, and I think, the process of going, it wasn't easy. Definitely learned a lot. I had some fun times, had some bad times. I mean, but, I think now that we're here tonight, I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Is there anything in particular in the health policy in the town that kind of drove you to that position, or just more of an involvement in? So
it's more. It was definitely involvement in the town. But I mean, there are things. The notices we get with the water. Whether the water is good for us. Good for us to drink. I mean, I know they say it's safe to drink, but what does that really mean? I mean, I would love to dig deeper into that. And then the kids' school lunches is kind of a little thing that I kind of had in the back of my mind too, because I have kids that went through the schools and they don't eat the lunches, so I'd like to see what they're feeding the kids in the school and see why they don't want to eat it. Because like I said, my middle child's in the high school right now, and she refuses to eat the lunches there. She always packs a lunch, so that's something I would like to see. And having a nutrition background as well, I could definitely help. And cooking at a Chinese restaurant for 14 years, I could sure help out on making foods that may taste better for kids who would want to eat it at school. So.
I know this is an issue that kind of came and went, but it says here in your profile that in 2021, after you refused to get the COVID vaccine, the hospital actually let you go, which you said motivated you to speak out on what you felt was a wrongful termination. How much did that influence you in saying, something I thought was wrong makes me want to get involved?
So, I mean, with the vaccines, I mean, I'll give you the why I didn't take the vaccine. Because, it was, I think health choices should be made between you and your doctor, and it's your own health. Everybody has their own, conditions that aren't the same with everybody else. So there's certain treatments that you would go through that somebody else wouldn't go through. So I took that stand not because I was against the vaccine. It was just because I felt as though it wasn't right for me. I would never say, oh, this is not something that anyone shouldn't get if they feel as though that's, it's better for their health, right? So, I mean, yeah, I spoke out against it because I think it was wrong that anyone should lose their livelihoods, just because they refuse some type of medical treatment. I think everybody should be able to have a choice to do what they would like to do with their own body.
All right, we do have one precinct in of 9 reporting, precinct 5. And Susan Wheel Murray, 144 votes. Chester Tam with 52. Again, that's only one of 9 that has voted so far. So we still have the other 8 precincts to go. So sitting on the board, right, if somebody was to say, well, Mr. Tam, what is he going to be standing for? What is he going to put into it? Obviously going to be putting your heart and soul into it, but what is going to be sort of like your issue in terms of what you want to focus on?
What do you mean, as in the
in the Board of Health positions that you're going to take and things that you think you're going to bring to the board that's
different? Well, I mean,
obviously,
with the Board of Health, the things I would like to make sure that everybody has, access to safe foods, water, air, environment, safety in the buildings and things of that nature. I mean, I think Board of Health, I don't see it as really a political thing. It's more of like, keeping the community healthy, and it's all I really would run on. I don't tend to want to put politics in terms of health, because I feel as though anything that I want to decide for my health shouldn't come from anybody, like the government should force me to do certain things that I don't feel is right for me. So that's the thing. I would say yes, there are a lot of government issued things when it comes to health, and you'd have to take that and be like, but like, just focus on what works and what doesn't work, and then and also allow the freedoms of the people to choose what they want to do with themselves.
All right, Chester Tam, good luck tonight. Thank you very much for joining us on our election night coverage.
Thank you for having me.
Chester.
All right, Chester Tam, one of the candidates for Board of Health. As we said, it's very early. It's only one precinct. And Ms. Murray has 144, Chester Tam with 52. Let's see, question one. You're going to have to go into the weeds on some of these.
Yeah.
Question one was the question having to do with kind of clarifying some of the language.
Yeah.
179 to 11.
Right.
The second question had to do with historical situation.
Yeah, so the question two, basically, and we could talk more about this, the Historical Commission asked to kind of reduce the number of members from 9 to 7, and largely due to quorum issues. And again, it speaks to some of the elected ballot questions and things that we had, elected candidate questions today, where we had a lot of unopposed races. That's a similar problem that boards face in terms of appointing members to appointed boards. And so it's interesting to see one of the articles that comes before us kind of reduce the number of members because they were struggling to get a quorum. So again, you see overwhelming passage there.
And the same thing with question three, 178 to 15, a yes as opposed to the no. So yes, 178, no 15, having to do with the Parks and Recreation Board, which has to do with bringing the language of the charter in alignment with the current election practices of the board.
Right, so basically being able to get the person that receives the most votes is elected. In some boards, you've had competitive races where you run against a specific person, and in other boards, the top vote getter. This just kind of brings that into alignment with the other boards.
And question four is also a runaway, 186 yes, as opposed to 10 no. That was the question having to do with the amendment, which would cause the members of the Housing Authority to be elected and appointed in a manner consistent with Mass General laws.
Yeah. Yep, that's,
there you go.
Yeah, pretty much four easy questions that not surprising to see them overwhelmingly approved, and with the only one competitive race, I think, we've only got one precinct in, but with Precinct 5 reporting 196 people, that is less than half of what we saw as a turnout last year. Last year, Precinct 5 had 478 votes, so we're running at about 40%, a little better than 40% of where we were last year for a turnout. So we'll see if that holds as we go through other parts, but other precincts in the town, but certainly the first precinct in doesn't have a high turnout tonight.
All right, as we said, the only race that's contested is for the Board of Health. We have a lot of other races that basically you're unopposed, right? Sean McDonald, Select Board Lot 2, unopposed. Select Board Lot 5, Heidi Silver Brooks, unopposed. Assessor Kevin Santos, unopposed. School Committee John Nunes and David Oliver, well, you vote for 2, and there are 2 on the ballot. Trustee of Free Public Libraries, you vote for 2. Lynn Carter and Joan Menard are the only 2 on the ballot. Planning Board, vote for 1. Helio Catullo Rosa. Member of the Planning Board, Lori Ann Miller, same thing, vote for 1. Moderator, Melissa Erin Haskell, once again, vote for 1. And member of Parks and Recreation Board, vote for 2. Jim Vieira and Joe Vieira. I always get a kick when I know both of them. I look at Joe Vieira, Jim Vieira. It's you could almost vote for one and you think it's the other.
Yeah, you could. You could.
Yeah.
And knowing the two of them, they're probably worried about who got more votes tonight. We'll see shortly.
So a lot of people unopposed. And so, I'm looking at that ballot, and as I said before, you like to see some participation. You like to see more challenges. Again, if you're a candidate and you're unopposed, you could say, well, they think I'm doing a good job. But let me ask you this, right? And I thought of this when I was coming in, right? And I know it's not anything that's before the board or anything tonight, but compensation, right?
Yeah.
If you could just give somebody some kind of stipend, right? Would that make it more likely that you have people running for these positions?
I don't know that we know. I mean, and so, again, it'd be no secret to anybody who's watched me when I served on the select board. I thought I was best positioned to do it because I was ineligible for the stipend because I work at a municipality that's connected here. But I do think that in some of the more high-profile spots in the town, something that's appropriated by the town meeting for members, it's a lot of work to do it well. And I do worry that there's not a lot of participation from folks to serve on these boards. I've worried about it for a long time, and when we look back, not in any one-year period, but when we look back over 2 decades, and we see the number of uncontested races that exist across the town, for me, that's concerning as a voter. I think that, sometimes people will say, well, this one's doing a good job or not a good job, but that should be tested and challenged with voters, and folks should have to articulate their positions about why that's important. So I don't know that will happen. I don't know that the town meeting has a big appetite to take it on, but I do think that it's something worthy of conversation, especially for some of the more high-profile boards in the town.
Well, one of the Select Board members is joining us right now here in election night coverage. He sits as the Select Board Lot 5 member and running for re-election tonight unopposed. We welcome to our microphones Heidi Silverbrooks. Hi, Heidi.
Hey, good evening.
How are you this evening?
Much more relaxed than I was 3 years ago.
Right, so you've been serving this one term so far, right?
Yes, I
Well,
served.
those 3 years went by pretty quickly,
They
didn't
did go by very fast. Yeah, the days are long, but the years are short.
Yeah,
Is that how it
yeah,
goes? Yeah, very fast. And I'm here tonight, feeling a little bit different than I was last time because I was very nervous sitting here and speaking to you before the results come out, and you don't know, so you don't know what to say. I guess I could say the same thing tonight. Who knows? I will say this morning I went out to cast my vote, and it was a consistent drizzle, and I thought, oh, that's not good on a voting day. And then it got considerably nicer throughout the day, and I thought, well, maybe folks will come out. So, I know we only have the one precinct in so far, and the voter turnout low. And from what I was hearing from different people who were going to vote and looking at the number of people who had been in their precincts, overall it sounded like low.
Yeah, that's my gut.
Yeah. Now, that, makes me sad because I really think if nothing else in the last, election seasons we've learned is that your vote really counts.
Sure.
And so to say, well, there's only one, challenged race, there's, these 4 ballot questions I may or may not have a lot of interest in, I still say it's, get out there and vote. And
Let me ask you, right?
yeah.
You've been sitting now for 3 years.
Yep.
And you're going to be sitting there for another 3 years, right? What do you think the big issue is facing the town and that you're going to have to face as a member of the Select Board this next term?
Oh, within the next 3 years, we have quite a few big-ticket items coming before us. Like the water treatment plant is, to me, very concerning. It was built in 1973, and some of the parts are circa 1973, which doesn't seem like that long ago to me, but it really is. And the capacity, the size of the town has grown. Homes are no longer, 2-bedroom, 1-bath. They're 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, and higher. That all puts a heavy burden on that water treatment plant. That's like my biggest concern, but we have other concerns. We have a bridge. It's not even, boating season, and the bridge has been out twice in the last in the last week.
Seems like there's a lot of bridges that have issues
Yeah.
around the area.
Oh, yeah.
Like that one in Rhode Island, for example.
Yes. We're still better off than
Yeah,
some.
we are.
But that's concerning, and that changes the whole structure of the Paden-Aram area when that's down, and how we do a lot of things, from police to fire to the school buses, how that route goes. So that's another ticket that I think within the next 3 years we'll be looking at. I know that the long-term capital planning group are looking at a number of things. The age of our school buildings. We are very lucky. We've always had a fantastic maintenance department for the schools. That's the good news. The bad news is there's just some things that you can't you can't change. So we have a school that's over 100 years old. We have several schools over 50 years old.
You have to navigate all of that and also take into account the cost of doing something about all of that, right?
Exactly. And so when we look at that, it's not just, it's what's out there for costs. So the school department is looking now to have a roof replacement, and, you know, can they get grant money through the state? And the hoops that they have to go through on that is important. We always have to look for grants first before we go to our taxpayers and say you have to foot the entire bill. But we're looking at all of these things potentially coming together at the same time. Yeah. And then there's also the town buildings and their use, maximizing their use. Our Council on Aging were in the process of putting together a proposal for their long overdue rehab of their kitchen. And now, when the Council on Aging is talking to me, a select board member, and talking about the age of folks that come and use the Council on Aging, and they're talking about 60 plus, I realize that I am potentially someone that could be not just visiting, but using the services at the Council on Aging. And so I do want that to be a service that we take advantage of as an aging community.
A lot of different things on the table coming up.
Yeah, and, you know, I think Heidi is very accurate with a lot of the infrastructure needs that exist across the town and the challenges that will pose for the next boards. And again, all the more reason why I go back to the point of these, it's important to have these conversations and get those ideas out. And so one of the opportunities we miss is we didn't have a chance to really have a lot of forums and conversations around that because there were a lot of slates that didn't have competitive races. You know, I agree 100%. These are challenging times. It's not new. I think anyone who's been paying attention for any period of time, this has been coming, and it is very close. The cliff of sorts is right in front of us. The buildings are 10 years older than they were 10 years ago. You know, Dartmouth's uniquely positioned when it comes to things like school funding and things. It's a suburban community, so it doesn't really benefit from a lot of the urban perks that come, you know, through the Student Opportunity Act and things along those lines. Yet its, you know, ability to pay based upon its tax base is often overrepresented. And so there's a lot of fiscal challenges that come with that. It is not an easy task to go to voters to ask them to fund additional operations through their tax dollars, never mind fund additional building repairs through the tax dollars. So I don't envy the position that you and your colleagues will find yourselves in. It's a challenge, and I would just, you know, keep encouraging folks. It's a conversation that you just have to keep.
Well, Heidi, we appreciate you stopping by here on election night. We wish you all the best. Congratulations and good luck over the next 3 years in your second term as a member of the Dartmouth Select Board.
Congratulations.
Very much.
Thank you very much. Heidi Silver Brooks is Lot 5. Now, we're looking at it looks like the percentage of people that voted. Am I reading that right? 7.1%?
Yeah, that's, you know, we've been kind of talking about that for the last 20 minutes or so. And so, you know, like last year, when we looked at some of those numbers, we were around 16% of voters in Precinct 5 that voted. The year before, around 12%. So we're pretty much running half of what we saw at Precinct 5 over the last 2 years. So it'll be interesting to see if that holds in some of the other precincts as they come in. But certainly the first indication is that turnout is fairly light today.
You're looking at the numbers, right? And the thing that obviously jumps out at you, too, is that not only did you have 15% last year, then 12% the year before. That's pretty much in the same ballpark. The year before that, 2022, we had 23%, which was much higher. Well, that's because we had the Indian logo question, so that got people a little bit more motivated to come out.
Yeah. I mean, generally, it's the issues, and so we're hearing some of it today about some of the financial issues that the town faces, and had there been questions on the ballot today that dealt with finances and people's ability to weigh in whether those are things they want their tax dollars to go to, the turnout would have been substantially higher. I think the combination of a lack of competitive races, I think just a few of the charter recommendations making it through town meeting, and the single issue race really contributed to the 7% turnout in the first precinct. Again, we'll see if that holds over the rest of the precincts, but chances are it's a pretty strong indicator.
We have 9 precincts here in the town of Dartmouth, and only one is in so far, Precinct 5, which is where we are right now. That's why we always get that one right away. And in the only contested race, it's Susan Murray with 144, Chester Tam with 52, but it's very early. I still have 8 of 9 precincts to go, so a long way to go in that race. While we're waiting for those votes to come in, we now have another guest sitting right here. I'm sure you are very familiar with his face, because if you flip around and you see that school committee meeting, he is front and center. Chris Oliver joining us here. Hey, Chris, how are you?
Good. How are you? Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, too.
You both.
So you're unopposed, so you'll be, obviously, you and John Noons, re-elected again for another 3 years as a member of the school committee. How do you feel about that? What's on deck for challenges?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to thank the voters of Dartmouth. For, as always, this term is I'm running unopposed, but it certainly hasn't always been the case. This is already my 5th term that I'm going for. I've been on the committee for 12 years. Oh. Man, time goes by fast. My youngest was in kindergarten, I believe, and when I got on, first grade, and now she's a freshman in college. So time goes by fast. And I look forward. I wasn't sure if I was going to run another term, but I decided to go ahead, and I think I know I have 3 more years in front of me, good years in front of me, to support this town. And we certainly, as you heard from Heidi Silver Brooks, certainly some concerns coming down are already on the table, as well as, just the things that we need to look at in this town. We certainly have what I believe is a structural budget deficit. We've got to do something about that. We have the last budget meeting, or the budget presentation for the school department. We had, the statistics don't lie. Mr. Kiley, our Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations, put the slides out there. We are down in the bottom for benefits, our healthcare benefits with the school department and through the town. Per pupil expenditure, we're pretty much, we are below average, I think, in every category in the DESE website for expenditures. So we certainly have some work to do there. You heard Heidi talk about Dartmouth High School needs a new roof. We just signed a statement of interest with MSBA, Mass School Building Authority, to help subsidize some of that, and hopefully we'll get on the docket, because as you know, they didn't, the accelerated roof program wasn't around for a few years. They stopped that during the tail end of COVID because of money. So we have that. We have our new superintendent, well, not new anymore, but a year and a half now, Dr. Saban McGuire. She's doing a phenomenal job. She's got a great strategic plan that the school committee just voted on not that long ago. And we've got some good things, but we certainly have some work to do.
So you being on the board 12 years, you said, right? Your
Yes.
child was young, now college, right? So when you were making that decision to run again, right, did you think to yourself, well, you know what, somebody new comes in, maybe they got to learn the ropes and all that, I'm already there, I have all this experience, right? How important is it to have that experience? And did that play a factor in thinking, well, you know what, I'm going to stay on at least another term based on what I've learned being there for 12 years?
Yes, it's certainly a good point. I would say absolutely, because in all honesty, the first three years, your first term on I can only speak for school committee, but it's a learning experience. It's a learning curve for sure for what school committees are responsible for, which is ultimately policy and budget and our hiring the superintendent of schools, but also just the driving the direction and the nuances of being on school committee, but certainly driving the direction of where you want to see the school department go. And it's obviously the power lies within the full committee, all 5 voting members, and not just with any one individual. And it's important to me that, a lot of times people get on, whether it's school committees, whether it's select boards, whether it's a mayor position with an agenda, right? I come to the table with no agenda. I just want what's best for this town, what's best for this community. I'm in public education myself, so I just want to see this town grow, especially because so many people come here for the schools. So many new families come in here, and that's what we've been hearing. If you've been watching a couple of the last school committee meetings, that we have some folks that have been stepping up and speaking during public comment, like, hey, I moved into this town. I grew up in this town. I moved away for a little while, but I moved back because of the schools. I want to bring my family up here. So I think it's so important that we do what we can to support the schools in this town. And I understand there's other departments, and certainly there's a lot of things to go around. But my responsibility is the schools. So.
All right, Chris, we appreciate you stopping by. Congratulations on yet another term.
Thank you very much.
So next time your term runs out, you'll have 15 years under your belt by then, right? Wow.
And that'll still be a far cry from John Nunes, though.
All right, thank you very much. Chris
Thank you.
Oliver,
Congratulations.
committee member here tonight on our election night coverage. Paul Santos along with Mike Watson, waiting for the election results to come in here. We only have that one contested race, as we mentioned, Susan Murray and Chester Tam. We did have that one precinct that came in, so we're just waiting for the next precinct. Obviously, we have 9. We only got 1, so we got 8 to go. Now, you had mentioned before about the lack of participation. We were talking about that a little bit. You're looking at all these uncontested races, right? And so the idea of, well, maybe a little stipend or something like that. But then I know people on the other side are going to say, wait a minute, the
Oh, yeah.
taxpayers, the burden, you're going to go hit me again and all, they're going to hit me in the wallet. Why should we pay people? They should contribute. What do you say to that argument?
Well, it's been the same story for almost 15 years. I mean, it's not about the dollars to me, because the dollars could definitely be spent in other areas: roads, schools, roofs. There's a million things we're going to hear about. The trouble that I have, and that I've said for a long time now, is we can't go and vote and have one position. It's not always like that. Sometimes we have multiple races that are there. But there are a lot of real issues. You're hearing them from school committee members and select board members that are coming, right? And a disengaged electorate does not help us to be able to talk about buildings that are in need of repairs. And we don't even have to talk about the boards. I went to vote today, and there were 4 slots on the town meeting for 14. That's not a comforting thought for me. And I don't have any stake in this anymore. I just come here to be honest, but the fact that I could write in 10 names.
Right, so you think the solution is reduce the size of town
If you're going to
meeting?
have a town meeting, you need to reduce the size of town meeting. I mean, the bottom
How low
line.
can you go?
Substantially, there were 10 vacancies out of 14, which tells me that there's 12 to 15 people in precinct 7 that are serving, maybe a little bit better than that out of 40. And what that means for folks to understand is that I could have wrote my name in today, had my wife write my name in, and I would have been elected with 2 votes. That does not represent the nearly 3,000 voters in Precinct 7 with 2 votes. Yet that's the system that we have and have had for a long time. And so, I won't lie, I was a little disappointed to see only 4 of the charter things pass through the town meeting. I think that there are very real issues, and I worry that our friends who are interviewing today have a big mountain to climb in terms of getting public trust behind some of the initiatives that are there, in large part to do. We're not going to be able to accomplish these goals with 7% turnout. I can tell you a year ahead of time.
Now, some of the other things that you think the charter issues that are before the town, like what, for example? In addition to the size of the town meeting.
Again, I'm not a town meeting member currently, so I don't know all of the issues that are there. I know some of the ones we spoke about were, for example, the DPW director.
Right.
That was raised. The DPW director is the only director in the town that is appointed by an appointed board. And I would challenge any of our viewers tonight, I wish we could take call-ins, but I'd be willing to bet the vast majority of people have no idea who is on the DPW board. And if you don't know who's on the DPW board, then you don't know who's responsible for appointing the director. That is problematic of a town of nearly 40,000. And again, anyone who watched me during my time up here will know I've been singing this song for more than a decade and a half. So, and I'll keep singing. As long as I keep breathing, I'll keep talking about it, because it's too important to the future of the town.
You sure you want to take calls?
I'd definitely take calls. Oh, yeah. Are you
Well,
kidding?
I've been filling in on the radio,
Yeah.
WBSM, and they gave me my own slot.
Oh.
I'm going to be starting in May,
Well, I'm not coming on
So,
that
no,
show,
when
that's for sure.
When I first started doing it, I'm like, wow, people have very strong opinions.
Oh, they do. They do. They definitely do.
So that, the people argue back and forth. So
They do.
I have to navigate this thing, But anyway, Sean McDonald is here. Maybe we'd have Sean McDonald come up. I don't know if we can refer to him as the dean of the select board.
He's been there the longest, for sure, so.
Yeah, he's the dean sort of by, I don't know, say by default, not really. He's been an elected official for a number of decades, and certainly has been
50.
there the longest, right?
Yeah,
So-
I mean, this is going to be his 6th term now on the select board. And he had 7 at the school committee, 5 at the school committee,
So when
so
you add all that up, we're talking about 30 years, right?
more than 30,
More
yeah.
than that, huh?
3 years on the
Park board,
3 years on the Finance Committee.
Now, did you serve together on the
We
select
did,
board?
five of my 6
Did
years.
you ever find
so-
yourself on the other side of the
Oh,
debate?
yeah, many times, many times.
You guys are both very good at articulating your positions.
And we're still very good, even though we have some differences of opinion.
Well, anyway, great to see you, Sean. Always a lot of fun.
I came up just to see you, Paul. I mean, I see Mike at softball games.
That's right,
so,
plenty of
you know,
times.
Yeah, I got plenty of time to see Mike, but I only get to see you twice a year, so.
Right.
I only see him once, so this is great.
You're lucky.
Well, anyway, it's great to have you here. So obviously, another term you'll be serving as a member of the Select Board, and every year we ask you what the big issues are, and, you know, a lot of times it is the budgetary issues that come up, sort of like front and center.
Actually, budget-wise, yes. I mean, there's only so much you can, in the pot that you can use. And divvying up that pot makes it very challenging. But with the financial safeguards that the town has, and with the people that are working, you know, every year, the fluidity of the budget becomes easier. You know, at least getting to the point where you're having the discussions. Finance committee, the finance people, select board, school department, you know, all done a bang-up job in getting it. At some point in time, though, that wall is going to come. And several years ago, you know, we were talking about this time of the year, you know, the wall coming. Well, we've moved that wall a little bit down the line, but we still have some huge issues that we have to deal with, you know. And be honest with you, the number one issue as far as infrastructure goes is the Paid Narrow Bridge. I mean, that thing's a dinosaur. I mean, it needs to be repaired. And what type of bridge is going to be there? How is it going to work? That still needs to be worked on. You know, we don't need this big, huge thing that, you know, the state has a tendency to overdo on design. Something simple, you know, maybe just a cantilever bridge, you know, type of thing. But
Well, Paid Narrow has a certain feel to it, too, so you
Right.
don't want to go overboard and ruin that feel, right?
right, you don't want to put something like, you know, the Sagamore Bridge on the causeway. I mean, that just doesn't work. You know, something similar to maybe what Gloucester has, you know, works very well and fits within the community. But there are other things too. I mean, when you're, you know, talking downstairs, we were talking about the town itself and getting from point A to point B. You know, it takes a while. If you go to the far north of the town to go to the far south of the town, it's going to take you 25 minutes, half hour. And that's just without traffic. So when you add that and you add the number of miles that the town has, 220 miles of pavement that it has to take care of, you know, you're talking some big, huge budget items. And we try to put more money to road repairs, but, you know, the costs get up. You know, to do a complete mile of road from all the way down to the bottom to scratch is about $1 million. $1 million a mile. So it's gonna, you know, it's gonna take a lot of money. But, you know, we get a list from the DPW every year as to, you know, what roads are on the horizon. Right now, they're concentrating on a lot of the neighborhoods that haven't been touched in 50, 60 years. Bliss Corner was one of them down near Norwell Street. There's some other areas that they're going to be working on. And you also need the personnel to do it. And right now, the DPW is lacking in personnel. You know,
So it's not only the streets that need to be done, you have to decide, like, which one is the most important one or the more pressing one, and
Right.
there can be some
one
disagreement
of the,
about that,
yeah,
right?
one of the biggest things is like, you know, well, why are they redoing Slocum Road? Because it was just done a few years ago. Well, you maintain your busiest roads because to repair them is end up going to be more costly. So, you know, and if you really think about it, there's only 4 ways north and south of this town. There's only 4. You know, you can go east and west pretty much anywhere. But to go north and south in this town, there's only 4 ways to go. And those are the main roads, and those are the ones that need to be taken care of. You know, we're waiting for Eversource, I know it's a dirty word, but Eversource to, you know, do something on Slocum Road where they tied in. But I think they're waiting to do, once they finish the Patton Avenue neighborhood. You know, they're in there now. So it doesn't make sense to do, you know, a part of it and then come back later. No, just do the whole thing all at once. And we have to, there's a lot of things, and it's almost sitting up on that board. Sometimes it's like herding cats, because you know what problems you have, you know what areas you need to look at, but as soon as you get a handle on one, another one comes up or another one happens. And I think right now we've got a very good board. We work well together. We don't always, agree, which is good, because it creates a healthy debate. And the staff we have is doing a fantastic job under the circumstances without a permanent town administrator. We should have somebody probably within the next 60 to 90 days. We just did an application process. We had 20 applications. And we're reviewing the applications, and we're going to decide at some point in time whether if those applications are worth doing any kind of interview or going for a headhunting firm. My preference was a headhunting firm several months ago, but I'm one of five.
Oh, I do remember that was a debate about that.
Yep. So, and I think because it's taking its time, we may be finding some really good candidates. So we'll see what happens, But yeah, I mean, this is the 6th term. It's my 4th term running unopposed, which is, it's nice. I don't have to schlep signs and whatnot. And I'll be honest with you, the only reason why, there's a lot of reasons why, but the main reason that I'm able to run is sitting right over there in the corner. She said yes. So if my wife had said no, then I wouldn't be done. But I have a feeling that right now this will be my last term. So my campaign, and I think my campaign account took care of that, because the bank killed it because of no activity, and it ate up the $43 that I had left in the account.
So look, we made some news tonight, right? He announced that right here.
Is that breaking news?
That's breaking news.
Across the.
I don't know whether it's breaking, but right now,
I do think, it's going to be a pivotal 3 years, and I think we've heard a little bit of that tonight. And so hopefully as we bring a new town administrator on, someone who's zeroed in, focused around some of these issues, because I think they're all accurate. We've heard about the bridge, we've heard about the schools, we've heard about the infrastructure. We continue to hear about revenue streams. There is a lot of work that has to be done and choices that have to be made that will not be easy.
Right.
And the good news is we do have some folks that have been in these seats for some time, and so we can rely on some of that experience, hopefully, to guide the community.
And we have a good mix as far as department heads go. I mean, we have some department heads that have been here, for a significant number of years, and we have some new department heads. So we have a good mix, and I think what we're looking for in a town administrator is somebody who can come in and basically grab the reins right away, but also, have the ability to communicate and effectuate people to basically get people, excited about coming to work and doing that. I mean, we had on my term, we had 2 town administrators, and I'll be honest with you, the town was very fortunate to have somebody like David Cressman come in. David, he might not have been the warm and fuzziest guy, but man, technical-wise and business-wise, David, he knew his stuff. And David, once you got to know David, he was a hell of a guy. He was really good. And when Sean came aboard, he brought the town into the technology aspect of it, and I think that gave us a leg up on providing a better customer product. And I think that's what we're really, we're customer based. 80% of our budget, 80% of the school budget is all personnel. So, we have to deal with the public. We have to deal, and we're going to make sure the public, gets what they want. And sometimes, it's frustrating, and we understand that. And if we know where it's being the frustrating, then we can try and fix it. So, and we try.
Well, Sean, we appreciate you stopping by. We wish you the best of luck in this final term. Now, if you change your mind, right, we'll be able to cue this up and say, didn't you say on...
We'll just bring them back every
You
year
can cure
and
them.
keep asking.
I mean, let's put it this way, I wouldn't be the first public servant to have something said 3 years later that all of a sudden shows up somewhere else, so it's not that. Mike, we'll see you on the softball field.
Sure, I'll be there.
We'll see you next Christmas.
Yes, thank you for your service to the town all these years, and good luck the next
Right.
term.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Sean McDonald, Select Board, Lot 2, unopposed here tonight as we bring you our election coverage 2025. Mike Watson and Paul Santos, only that one precinct, and only the Board of Health is a contested race. Susan Murray, 144, Chester Tam, 52. But again, that's only 1 of 9 reporting. That's precinct 5 where we are right now. So we still have the other 8 out of 9 to go. And it's 8:45 or it's 8:48 right now, so any minute now, they could just come in with the whole thing.
Yeah, I think we're probably closing in the last few minutes to have the results. I think just really important to mention, some of the things that Sean had talked about certainly were prevalent just, 15 years ago when I was on the select board. The pandemic funding really helped to mask some of the structural issues with the financing and the school of the entire operational budget here. So that's a real concern in the next 3 years for us to be able to see. So we now we do look like we have some votes coming in
All right.
across the town.
Let's see, I'll have to put the glasses on for this one. Let's see, it is Susan Murray with 1,647 votes, and Chester Tam with 439. Is that all the precincts? I'm trying to see what that says at the top.
I believe it says 8 out of 9. It's
8 out of
tight
9?
there, but
Yeah, I think 8 out of 9 at the top there. So it looks like Ms. Murray is pulling away, and we do have 8 out of 9. Okay, there you go, it is 8 out of 9. So it looks like Ms. Murray is pulling away, and looks like we'll be victorious tonight. We're just waiting for the last precinct to come in, 79% to 21%. Again, we kind of tip our hats to anybody who puts their name out
Absolutely.
there in the ballot.
Absolutely.
And wants to serve in any of these boards or as a select board member or whatever you run for here tonight. So both candidates are to be congratulated. So we'll just wait until that final precinct comes in. But again, Board of Health, the only one contested tonight.
yeah, and the final precinct is precinct 3. I mean, we're probably looking at a maximum of 40 votes in that precinct tonight, and I would guess probably, given the trend lines here, significantly less, probably 20 or so votes if it's running half of what it's usually done. So, again, I agree. I think we have to, congratulate both candidates for putting the name out there and try to encourage Chester to think about another opportunity or another time to run for the Board of Health again, while we congratulate Susan, because I do think that the town is in need of more people to step up for these critical roles. And as I was saying before the numbers came in, we are going to face a very significant challenge in the community, and we're going to have to decide what kind of community it is that we want. And what we want to fund. I mean, I think the bridge issue is a very real infrastructure issue. I think some of the town buildings, schools, are also going to be hot topics of conversation in terms of funding. And these are choices that residents are going to be asked to make. So I do think that in the next couple of years, now that the COVID era funding has evaporated, the structural deficits and things that we saw when I was on the select board from 2009 to 2015 are really coming to fruition. And I think over the next couple of years, voters are going to have to weigh in about whether or not they want to fund additional renovations or not. And so that will drive turnout considerably.
Well, when we had the police station, right, remember that? They had the first vote and it was no, and then they came back with it again, and the second time it was yes. But then, you had a little higher tax bill, for a couple of years there to pay for the police station. So might these issues be
and I think
presented to the voters again?
Yes, and I think that's the biggest challenge. Voters are still paying for the police station, right? And so, when you tack on additional buildings on top of additional buildings, and hear talks of structural deficits as well, our elected leaders are going to face very stark choices, which is one of the reasons why I think we really need to continue to think about how best to run the town's government in the future, as well as how to provide the types of services that residents want. It's 2025, but I can pretty much guarantee, Paul, if we're here over the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to be having those conversations again.
So the total vote so far tonight, 2,169. That's the total amount of ballots that we received so far tonight in the 8 out of the 9 precincts, and that is a percentage of 8.66%. So you compare that to 15% last year, and 12% the year before that, and 23%, which was 2022. That was the year of the Indian logo question, where there were strong feelings on both sides of that one. Now we're down to 8%, pretty low.
Yeah, we're running probably, 60% of what the last 2-year average was. And so a definite, very significant drop-off this year. And I think we can only attest that to the one race that was competitive and the fact that there were 4 pretty much slam dunk charter questions on the ballot. And again, as a voter, not sitting here with you, a little disappointed that some of the other conversations through town meeting didn't get to the voters. I think they would have engaged voters in a different way to think about what the future is. And I really do sit here tonight thinking that we're going to face some very real challenges that voters are going to have to weigh in on over the next couple of years for our community.
When you see so many uncontested races, it's not unthinkable that you might have a race where nobody runs for it. I mean, we haven't seen that, but, you could have that at some point.
We do have it. It's happened several times in the last couple of decades. Library Board of Trustees has had write-in winners. And it's just a dangerous pathway, because then you run the risk of what I had talked about with town meeting happening on some of these boards where someone is elected with 20 votes. That's clearly not a mandate of the nearly 40,000 folks that live here.
You said you get elected with 2 votes, voting for yourself and your wife voting for you, but that's only if your wife votes for you. Otherwise,
That's right.
you
And
could
in my
win with
case,
one
that may
vote.
not happen.
Yeah,
So
you could be 1 vote.
I still might win with 1, though, if there's not
you
enough
vote,
people.
Vote for yourself, right?
I think there's a minimum. I think you have to get at least 2.
Oh, is that right?
I don't know. I'd have to look that up.
Yeah,
But
interesting. Anyway, we're just winding things down here. We do have 8 of 9 precincts in, and as we said, the one contested race that we were talking about a little bit before, Susan Murray is going to be elected tonight. Chester Tam is the challenger, and we wish him the best. He's here with us tonight. We thank you for stopping by our election night coverage, just waiting for the final precinct to come in. There are the numbers right there for the Board of Health. Vote for 1. We have all these other uncontested races, and as soon as we get that final tally, we'll call it a night here from Town Hall. Always interesting working with you, because I know you served, obviously, as a member of the Select Board. Now, how many years has it been since you've been off the board now? It's over a decade, right?
it's coming up on a decade. I think it is 10 years. I was on from 2009 to 2015, so 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years. It's crazy how fast it goes by.
I know we've talked about it before. You like the grassroots campaign, right? The old grassroots
Yeah.
campaign.
Yeah.
So the first time I met Mike Watson is I was in my front yard, and he comes walking up my front lawn, and he says, "Hey, how you doing? I'm Mike Watson. I want to make a difference for the town." And Bob, and you dazzled me with
Yeah.
like 2 minutes of,
Yeah.
like you do
Yeah, yeah.
tonight, right?
Yeah.
Same kind of thing. And so I went back in. I'm like, "Hey, this guy Watson, he sounds like he's pretty good. I mean, he made the effort to come talk to me. And, I'll give him a vote.
Competitive races
So-
force that.
But I, other than that, I really have to say, I didn't really give it a lot more thought than that.
Sure.
I mean, you came across very well. You came across articulate. You came across like somebody who, was really trying to help the town. So you won me over with that
Listen,
little 1-minute presentation there.
Anyone who asks my advice on political campaigning, I give them the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? Get out there, knock on people's doors, talk to them about what you see as the issues. Most people who run for public office in local municipalities will not do that. They just won't do it. It's a lot of extra work. They want to put the signs up. The signs don't vote. People like that moment. People want to be able to connect with someone, and it doesn't take long, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. But yeah, during both of my runs for the Select Board, I probably knocked on 500 to 750 doors. Visited the Council on Aging, visited all the places where people were. That's what we need to get back to, so that we really understand where folks are on the issues. And we can actually represent the entire community.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back to wrap it up here on our election coverage 2025, live from Town Hall. We'll be right back right after this.
Hello, I'm Magnolia McComish, the town's communications coordinator and the host of What's Cooking. Ever wondered what town employees cook up when they're off the clock?
Or you could add linguiça or chorizo, anything really that you have on hand.
Join us for What's Cooking in Town. Each episode features town employees whipping up delicious dishes while we dive into exciting town projects and initiatives.
One of the next things that we're looking to get online and try to give people an option to not have to go out of their way so much is dump stickers with the DPW.
We will stir up conversations on how these developments benefit our town. Tune in, cook along, and discover how we are building a better community one meal at a time.
You can also add it right before you're ready to serve it. It's going to be a little while before we can eat this. It's really hot.
Sundays at 10 a.m. or on Dartmouth Community Media's YouTube channel. Hello, I'm Magnolia McComish, the town's communications coordinator and the host of What's Cooking. Ever wondered what town employees cook up when they're off the clock?
Or you could add linguiça or chorizo, anything really that you have on hand.
Join us for What's Cooking in Town. Each episode features town employees whipping up delicious dishes while we dive into exciting town projects and initiatives.
One of the next things that we're looking to get online and try to give people an option to not have to go out of their way so much is dump stickers with the DPW.
We will stir up conversations on how these developments benefit our town. Tune in, cook along, and discover how we are building a better community one meal at a time.
You can also add it right before you're ready to serve it. It's going to be a little while before we can eat this. It's really hot.
Sundays at 10 a.m. or on Dartmouth Community Media's YouTube channel.
Okay, so we have 8 out of those 9 precincts reporting, and the final precinct, we understand there was a delay. That was precinct 3, UMass, but it's such a small amount of votes that it's not going to make any difference in the only contested race that we have here tonight. So clearly, Susan Murray is going to win that Board of Health race, 1,647 votes in the 8 of the 9 precincts to Chester Tams 439. Chester swung by before, a really affable gentleman, somebody that's very interested in the town. We congratulate him for running, and of course, congratulations to Susan Murray for being victorious here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, just a great to see a competitive race. Certainly looking to try to encourage more residents and folks who might be interested in public service to think about a run, not only for town meeting seats that are open in their precincts, but also for some of these elected and appointed boards that, we saw tonight. Historical Commission had their membership reduced because they've struggled to get a quorum. So there are a lot of vacancies even on appointed boards. If you're interested, hopefully you can look at that information on the town website and either run for the seat or seek the appointment of an appointing authority.
So obviously I have a choice here. Our choice is to sit here for another half hour and you listen to Mike and I just talk like this, or we could just call it a night right now, and just put you out of your...
Listen, I'll vote for them. They want to call it a night. They've had enough after an hour.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And by the way, look at this, talk about preparation, right?
Yeah.
So Peter Chase, the director of Dartmouth Community Media, he's already planning a year ahead. He has the date right down here. The annual town election will be April the 7th of 2026.
Yeah, real shout out to the DCTV folks. When we got here, a few minutes before 8 o'clock today, not only did they have that date, but they also had all the information that we like to talk about. What does the turnout look like? What's happened over the last couple of years? What were the issues before the Charter Commission? Just a real shout out to the DCTV team and Peter.
100%.
Great job to get us ready for tonight, and hopefully we did our part to help inform people who are watching from home.
And don't they do a great job with the cameras on the sporting events? I have the great pleasure of announcing a lot of the games, and boy, you got to talk about, there are very few towns that have, the replays and the close-ups and the graphics and the whole thing that we have in town.
Day in and day out, and they're always there. I've had to call Peter a couple times over the years for different things, and they're always very supportive of the work that's happening in Dartmouth, and hopefully residents are taking advantage of that on their cable broadcasts.
So you mentioned the percentage of voter turnout. 2022 was the Indian logo question night. That was 23%. 2023, 12%. 2024, 15%. tonight, only 8%.
Yeah.
That's a big drop.
Yeah, it's a big drop, and like I said, I mean, I think when we look at numbers like 3,800 last year and 3,000 the year before, those are, you know, reasonable. I think that there's still a lot of room to grow from that in terms of local politics, but a number that's less than 10% today. We're probably looking at somewhere, you know, around 2,000 total
That's right,
votes
yeah.
today.
And again, a lot of it has to do with the fact that there weren't contested races. You
Yeah.
know, there was just a lot of unopposed races, so that played a big factor, I imagine.
And I do think that that's going to be a hurdle that our elected folks are going to have to tackle, because you have to engage the electorate in some of these big issues that are coming. And part of being an engaged electorate is participating in the voting process. When we don't see that happening, we need to re-engage voters in a different way. So a lot of work there.
All right, so 15 votes came in
For Precinct 3.
that last precinct, so we do have a final now. 2,184, the votes that came in, and the voter turnout is 8.72%.
And no real change, I mean,
real
pretty
change,
much from
yeah.
what we saw. So, yeah, under 9%. Not a great turnout tonight, and again, hopefully the call to get people more involved for 2026. We'll have more to talk about in a year.
So Susan Murray is the new member of the Board of Health. Congratulations to her and her challenger, Chesterton, tonight. So we'll see you on, wait a minute, what is the date again?
April 7th.
April 7th of 2026.
2026,
We'll
yeah.
be here, right here at Town
Absolutely,
Hall.
absolutely.
For Mike Watson, I am Paul Santos, for all of us here at Dartmouth Community Media. Have a great night.